Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today at the VHU, that's the Military History Institute in Prague, in the Czech Republic. And we're taking a look at some prototype Czech pistols here. Now today, we have a pistol with kind of an interesting, little bit of a complicated story to it. This is a pistol designed by a guy named Alois Tomiška in 1922 or 1923. Now, Tomiska is best known for designing the gun that bears essentially the translated meaning of his name, the Little Tom pistols that were made in Vienna and also in Prague, but that gets to be a pretty complicated story. The place where this shows up is when we go back to 1920, when the Czech military held a significant trial to adopt a new military pistol. There are a bunch of people involved, including Tomiška. He submitted a gun from the company that he was working for at the time, and he lost. The winner of that trial was a German engineer by the name of Josef Nickl, who had a pistol that was adopted as the VZ-22 and then 24. And then the simplified version was the VZ-27. This would be the Czech standard army pistol through the 1920s and most of the 1930s. Well, Tomiška, when his pistol lost in this trial, he went back to work. He was working for the South Bohemia Arms Factory and kept developing his pistol. So this isn't the specific model that he had submitted to trials, but until 1924, he continued to work on it. And this is one of the intermediate versions that he developed that he really thought was better than the Nickl pistol that the Army had adopted. And in fact, he spent 4 years after the trials essentially badgering every political figure he could find in the Czech parliament to overturn the decision of this Army trial and adopt his pistol instead. So let's take a look at what his pistol really was. All right, this pistol is in the white. It is a prototype. It was never actually given a finish. And you can see it's serial number 20 here. Properly understanding what Czech companies were what and where guns were being actually manufactured in the 20s and 30s is a little complicated and not helped by the fact that all of the different arms manufacturers basically seem to have the exact same name. So this is Česká Žebrovka, Czechoslovakian small arms manufacturer, private company in Prague. Now this was actually manufactured in Strakonica. The company headquarters were in Prague, hence the name Prague in the company name. But what we have here is a pistol with an awful lot of technological features to it. So first off, it is a double action, single action gun. Now this particular example has a number of broken parts in it and the double action doesn't work anymore, but originally this was a double action gun. That's one fancy element to it. There is a safety here, so if we cock the hammer, we can engage the safety all the way back. So that disconnects the hammer completely. So you've got that manual safety. We have a magazine release that is here on the back of the grip, and you push it inward, which is kind of a weird system, but it makes sense when you realize that this is actually only part of the magazine release system because the magazine is supposed to automatically eject when the last round is chambered. So on the follower here, we have a little tab right there that tab is intended to trigger the magazine to release when it comes all the way to the top. Now, speaking of the technology and the mechanical elements or features in the gun, you'll notice there's also a tab here on the side. That is for a magazine safety. So you can't fire the gun without the magazine in it, like so. I'll show you. Now for disassembly, I think this kind of has a neat system to it. So we have a fixed barrel with a recoil spring inside the slide, which is fairly typical, like a Browning 1910. We push this in and rotate to release the front spring retainer. We then have the spring around the barrel. Now, with a Browning system like the 1910, you have to pull the slide back and rotate the barrel to disengage locking lugs. What Tomiška did is have just a little spring-loaded set of tabs here. I pull those down, and I can just slide the barrel off the front. Now, if we look at this, you'll see a barrel design very much like an FN 1910, where we have a couple of locking lugs there that engage in the frame like this. Now, With the Browning guns, as I said, you have to rotate this, and reassembling it can be a little tricky because you have to make sure that it's at the right position and the lugs engage. With this one, this lever just pulls those lugs down to disengage them, so it's actually very easy to reassemble it. You just slide the barrel back in. If it doesn't immediately seat in the right place, you just you let go of this and kind of slide the barrel forward and back, and it'll just snap itself into place. That's a really cool feature. Beyond that, up in the slide at least, we don't have a whole lot of fancy things going on. Pretty much what you would expect, hammer fired. There is no firing pin safety in this. It's a little bit early in firearms development to have that. We do have a spring-loaded firing pin though. Now let me take off the grip panels and show you the elements underneath. All right, there's one side. And there is the other. So our magazine safety is hidden under this side plate. So this piece right here protrudes inside the magazine well, and this little plate on the magazine is going to push this lever up when you insert the magazine. So as this comes up right there, it's going to push that tab up. And what that does is ensure that when you pull the trigger bar is going upward at an angle that is actually going to fire the gun. If I take the magazine out, this trigger bar is in a downward position and it won't actually connect with the sear. So that right there is how the magazine safety works. Then the auto release doesn't, or the auto eject doesn't work. And it's supposed to be this little tab hitting something right up at the top here of this bar. So the bar in the back of the grip frame, you can see this is the magazine release. It's set on a pin right here, and so up at the top, you can see it with that little notch cut in it. It pivots back when I pull the magazine release forward. So the idea is when the magazine is empty, also we have a captive spring here that's going to help push the magazine out. So there's a toe on the rear of the magazine that gets pushed on by that spring. So let's see. I really don't have a way to go in there and actually push it because the magazine's in the way. But the idea is when the follower comes all the way up to the top, it pivots that magazine release in like, well, it's going to push that back, which pushes this forward, which pops the magazine out. But again, it's broken in this pistol. So there you have Alois Tomiška's roughly 1922 Czech-made iteration of what he thought would be a really good army pistol. So this is a pretty cool gun. Perhaps it is too technologically complicated. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in here. The idea of an auto-ejecting empty magazine is something that has come up from time to time. Like the US Grant Hammond pistols were intended to do the same thing, but it's also a feature that isn't really all that useful. It certainly makes it very likely that you will lose magazines in the field. At this time, you know, a lot of officers and even soldiers, guys who are issued pistols, they're not issued a whole lot of magazines, and they're certainly not, those magazines are certainly not considered disposable items. So the idea that you're not keeping perfect count and unexpectedly you fire around and the magazine goes shooting out of the gun, that's something that we often think about today as a tactical advantage, but it may not be a strategic advantage. It may not really be what you want. And it's a feature that always seems to be broken in the pistols that I find that are supposed to have it. And that kind of says something too, it's fragile. Anyway, by 1924, Tomiška had essentially made so much of a pest of himself that the South Bohemia Arms Factory just finally had enough and fired him. And he would spend 1924 until 1928 working on manufacturing Little Tom pistols again, through his own company until finally that went out of business as well in 1928. So it'll be interesting to know a little bit more about this guy. I wonder what he was like to speak to in person. Was this, you know, it's unclear from the information that's available if this 4-year effort to get the military trials overturned, is that because he just was desperate for a contract and money? Was it because he honestly thought that his pistol was better and that, you know, the military security of Czechoslovakia was in grave danger because they had an inferior pistol? What exactly, you know, it'd be interesting to know more about the guy's personality. Unfortunately, he is, of course, long dead, and so all we have to look at are some of the guns that he left behind, like this one. So big thanks to the VHU for giving me the opportunity to take a look at this and film it and show it to you guys. If you find yourself in Prague, definitely make a point to stop by the Army Museum here. They have a bunch of really cool exhibits, including a whole bunch of experimental Czech stuff on display. That's a lot of fun to take a look at. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.